Boy. God. Okay. Hey, everybody. Kentario. Back again. Christ in comic books. I watched it. Episode 76. My Hero Academia. Season 4. Watched it. Boy. Wow. So, I don't even know where to begin with this, but I know that I have to do a reaction to this that fight. I have to do a reaction to this because there's so much involved to what happened in episode 76. Now, before I go speaking on it, keep in mind, people, if you're watching right now, spoiler alert. Extreme spoiler alert. I'm just going to talk about the episode. I already read it way back when, but I watched it. As they've been saying lately, it hits different. So, good God, man. So I'm gonna start by talking about the episode. So last reaction I did was when Lemillion was fighting to protect Eerie. Lemillion was the hero that could phase through things, and then he lost his powers, and then he got a severe injury. So the episode 75, to summarize, it wasn't that big of a hit as far as that episode itself, but I'll correlate it into where we are now. So what happened in episode 75 was Lemillion got hurt while trying to defend Eerie. So the other heroes finally were able to come through and assist him after he got injured. Deku comes kicking through the wall, and he's like, I'm going to take you on, Chisaki. I'm going to take you down, Overhaul. So the thing about that, though, is as you're watching through episode 75, you see a lot of limitation as far as what Deku is able to do, because he's just barely able to get to up to 20% of using One For All. So in him trying to access the full coil and use One For All higher, it's putting a strain on his body. He's not able to move as fast. It's just basic speed and physical prowess, physical enhancement that he's able to operate with. And so even Overhaul acknowledges that and sees that as not much of a challenge. So Eerie is taken up by Lemillion. Lemillion's trying to, with his injured body, crawl away, get her to safety. And Deku's demonstrating, how much lesser developed he is in the sense of battle in comparison to Lemillion, being that he's being overwhelmed a lot by Chisaki doing the same moves, breaking up the ground, causing spikes to come up out the ground, and he's having to duck and dodge and bounce through the air and to get out the way, but he's not even able to get close to get a hit in like Lemillion was. So it's a totally different type of battle energy that you can really see with that. A lot of development as far as the character skill. So Night Eye has to end up intervening. Night Eye gets in close. Night Eye gets a touch on Chisaki to be able to see into the future, to see what to expect when it comes to contending with Chisaki. The thing about that is, now just to bring up some clarity for those that don't know, Night Eye is a hero that used to be the partner of All Might, but Night Eye discontinued his partnership with All Might after All Might got severely injured, and All Might got severely injured because All Might didn't heed the warning that Night Eye gave him after seeing All Might's future that he was going to die. So he ends up getting this huge injury, which in turn not only hurts their partnership and their communication with one another, but it also keeps Night Eye from looking too far into anybody's future because he never wants to see that again. He doesn't want that to be the outcome in things that he's seeing for people, especially because at this current moment, he has the perspective that he can't change anything about it, so he doesn't want to see that kind of future. But in this instance, when he touches Chisaki, he sees so far that he sees it as like a video reel. So the reel that he's seeing, he sees it end in blood, Midoriya's blood. And so he ends up getting injured himself. He gets spiked through the stomach, completely through the abdomen, right there in the area of the diaphragm. And then one spike that goes through his arm, taking his arm completely off. So now he is completely out of the picture. So who do we got left fighting? Deku. By himself. We already, like we just talked about, he demonstrated the limited capabilities that he has in this fight because it's just speed and enhanced physical strength. So that's not giving him much of a one-up. So they're fighting. Deku's trying his best to contend with him. So in the midst of this contending between the two of them, Lemillion is struggling to get Eerie to safety. Eerie is sick of the situation, and she's sick of seeing Lemillion injured and passing out. She comes back and she sees what's happened to Night Eye. She sees Deku struggling. She doesn't want the people that's trying to help her to have to suffer. We already talked about this in the last video, that concern that she had for them by being willing to, just let it be me, the only one that suffers, no one else. And she's coming to try and do that again in this instance. Hey, just hurt me. If you'll save them, you restore them. Because remember, Overhaul's ability is he can touch something, destroy it, and bring it back either as it was or however he sees fit after it's restored. So she's asking him to bring them back. I'll come with you. Don't hurt them anymore. And so in the midst of this, they're interrupted. The other heroes that are fighting on the surface come crashing down out of the air. I'm not going to get into all of their stuff. We're going to just focus on the battle with Deku versus Overhaul. So they come crashing through the ceiling. They see everything that's happening right now. Chisaki gets his hands on Eri. He goes to try and leave, so he causes the ground to rise up so he can get out. And in the midst of him trying to leave, Deku still, like I said, he's wanting to try and help, and he's not giving up. So he goes and he's pushing his way through to get to the higher level where Chisaki is. And as he's making his way up there, Eri is witnessing the persistence. Eri is witnessing those other heroes fighting against one of the other villains. He can absorb life force. They're contending with them. She's seeing all of this fight for her, and she's really struggling within herself. So in the midst of going through all of that, Red Cape comes down, and she takes a hold of the Red Cape. I'm going to double back to this because it's so powerful and so important. So she sees the Red Cape. She decides in that moment, they've done all of this for me. I want to be saved. I need to be saved. She jumps. She grabs the cape. Deku is making his way closer and closer to her. He gets a hold of her. He holds on to her, and Chisaki goes to try and attack them. Deku's not skilled in air maneuver, but he doesn't want this girl to get hurt. So he starts air dodging, moving, trying to get out of the way. It's very clean in how they illustrated that, how they did the animation. It's very clean how they did that. But he's dodging, trying to get out the way. And he ends up... something happens to where... And I'm trying to make sure that I can articulate this clearly. So what happens in this instance is... Eri's powers kick in. So we learn what her capability is. She can rewind the clock. So where in one instance it, can heal injury, in another instance it can make you to where you cease to exist, to where you were never born. So it's a very powerful ability, as well as it's something she doesn't understand, so she can't control it. Later on in the episode, Chisaki reveals he didn't reveal what she's capable of. So she doesn't know what she can do. So her power is just running haywire right now. And in the same instance, Deku is doing everything he can to protect her, so he utilizes One for All. I think he does it. He does a kick. He does his kick, the Manchester kick. And when he does his Manchester shoot style kick, it causes everything to shatter. The pillar that Chisaki was using to try and get away shatters. He falls to the ground. He's near one of his other villains. But in the same instance, Deku... I'm trying to remember. Deku comes shooting through the air because of the gust caused by him doing the Manchester shoot style kick. And he's like realizing, oh no, it's going to happen again. I've used too much of One for All. My body's going to be damaged. But he's noticed, no, I'm healed. He's like, okay, everything's all right. So again, Eri's on his back. She's so close to him, and he's falling through the sky. And he starts to realize that, okay, so this is what she can do. She's keeping me, under control. She's keeping me from suffering the damage I otherwise would be feeling right now. Chisaki, in this same instance, he takes hold of the villain that was fighting against the other heroes that came falling through. He breaks him apart, bonds him to himself, and causes him to become a giant monstrous figure. So he comes shooting through the ground to kind of try and get to Eri to fight with Deku. And Deku is realizing that he needs to keep her close to him. So he uses the red cape, ties it to himself to keep Eri on his back so that her power can continue to keep him under control, and he unleashes all of what he can of One for All. So he goes 100%, at least to the ability he's capable of in this instance. We talked about, this was talked about prior in several other videos, not with mine, but in other people's reaction videos to Deku using One for All and going 1,000,000% against Muscular, how it was really just his imagination, that was just a motivational moment for him. It wasn't that he actually accessed it. The same thing's happening here, I would think, to an extent, that he's triggering all that he's able to access. Not just everything, but he is accessing everything he can in this moment. So he's triggering the power. She's keeping him under wraps. And then Deku goes in. Boom, he does another kick, knocking Chisaki into the air. So this leads to a flashback, which reveals a lot more of what Chisaki has done. He's been planning to get rid of heroes and other people and their powers, but he's really trying to plan this on a scale of to where the Hasakai clan can be, the leaders of the underworld like they used to be, by buying and by using the power to erase quirks, and then as well as sell quirks to people as well. He's looking to somehow monetize that so that they could grow the family of the Hasakai family. That's his biggest goal. But because the head of the family, which is Irie's grandfather, is against this, Chisaki goes and touches him. He causes him basically to be fatally ill. So he's bedridden and unable to lead. And Chisaki says he won't restore him until after he fulfills this, so that he can show this to the man that he appreciates for having, given him a life. Because remember, the grandfather took Chisaki in as an adopted son. So with that being the case, I'm going to go ahead and fast travel forward here. So here's the best part of it. Man, crazy. It is ridiculous what you see. So Deku's done kicked him in the air. Flashback happens. Flashback over. And Deku says some of the most powerful stuff when he's going in. So he's like contending with Chisaki, who's basically continuously breaking himself apart, rebuilding himself so that he can continue fighting and also heal his wounds. That's the tricky part. He can heal his own wounds by doing that. So he goes in to try and swing on Deku. Deku doesn't, he just swoops by him. Like, it's done so fast, it's so clean, you have to watch it a couple of times. He zooms by him, he breaks apart again, and Deku's like, well, how can I be a hero if I can't, what was it he said? He said, I'm gonna try to, how can I save, he's like, if I can't save one person, how can I save everyone? That's what he says. So Deku, he starts just a rampage, a parade of attacks. It's like looking at Luffy doing the gum rapid fire. Punch after punch after punch. You just see fists. You just see fists covering over Chisaki. Boom, boom, boom. You just, like, they hit, they fade, and you see pow, 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 break apart, pow, pow, pow. And then next, you see Deku come in. But I want to save everyone. So his goal is to save everyone. If he can't save one person, how can he save everyone? And boom, you just see that clean hit to the face, and bow, game out. Episode ends with Night Eye witnessing this. Deku's done hit the ground. Chisaki's out. Night Eye is recognizing. He's like, I saw the future where Deku dies and I die. But here he is. He won. Is it possible then that the future can be changed? And the episode ends like that. And it's just, whoa, crazy epicness. I've done seen the clip where he hits him like that like 4 times already. And I watched the episode last night at midnight. That happened 4 times. Ridiculous. So let me get into the nitty gritty so that we can get to the end of this, because I know a lot of people like the dang time's far spent, Ontario. So, oh gosh, this episode was so deeply illustrated. I don't think a lot of people realize this, but when you think about, like I said in my last video when I reviewed episode 74 with Lemillion, Lemillion, although his goal was to save 1 million people, he was only able to save the one Irie. But what he did in that episode, as you recall me saying, he covered her in his cape, which just so happens to be red. And so Deku comes, and with Deku coming and fighting and winning, you got to pay attention to that cape. That cape is very symbolic, because the cape, when she saw it, that triggered for her that these people are doing all of this to save me. So she goes for that cape. That's that covering. And another significance, if you want to look at it in a spiritual sense, it's a covering of the blood. It's something that, we as Christians, we speak about, is that the blood of Jesus covers us. That was that sacrifice for our sins that covers a multitude of them. It saved us. Christ shedding his blood on the cross, it saved us. That red cape is symbolic to the salvation that Irie is looking for, to get out of this dark place that she's in. That salvation is reflected in that red cape. I can be saved. People are here to save me. So that's one symbolism there. And she went for that. She went to be covered by the blood. She went to be covered by that cape to be saved. And in her going for that, and even more so, Deku took that on himself as well. because he took it and he tied it to himself so that Erie could be tied to him. So she's still covered in the blood, and that there is somebody there to save her. So it's like that death to life. So then there's that death in that one sense, but then there's that life, being that Deku is there to operate as that savior, the physical aspect of the savior, because someone is able to be there and continue to fight for her salvation, to continue to fight that she be protected and covered. And man, when I saw that cape and I saw the way that it was used, my mind was blown. My mind was blown. And I was shook to think that symbolism that they use that cape for, to show that, that's the symbol of the blood that was shed. That blood is being shed for you, but you definitely are going to be saved. I mean, Jesus died, but the thing about Jesus dying was, Jesus died, he went to hell, he took the keys, he took the power of death away from death. And him taking that power away and rising from the dead, that ensured that our salvation will continue on. That the death and sacrifice that he did wasn't for the moment, but it was for all of eternity. So that was an ensurement of our salvation. Same thing with Deku showing up to protect Erie after Lemillion was unable to continue battling, even after his blood was shed, after Deku's blood was shed, after Night Eye's blood was shed, that there's somebody that's going to be there to continue fighting for you. And that's what Jesus is for us Christians. Someone who is continuously fighting for us, someone who is continuously there for us, to care for us, to love us, and even more so to be there in our darkest hour. And that's what Deku was for Erie. Thank you guys. I hope y'all have a blessed evening. I know I got excited, but it was crazy. Episode 76. I highly recommend you watch it. I highly recommend you watch My Hero Academia. By the way, as we draw this video to an end, I want to encourage everybody to please hit the subscribe button down there at the bottom. Make sure you give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Thumbs down if you didn't. I don't mind it. I welcome the feedback. And please leave a comment so I can know what other things I might want to talk about, other things to keep in mind, and other things to think about. You guys have a blessed evening. Good night.